Good Monday morning, everyone, and welcome to the month of July. Today is July the 1st, and we are continuing on in our daily Bible reading for the year 2024, making our way through the Psalter. Today, we are reading together Psalm number 80. The 80th Psalm is titled in my Bible, A Prayer for Restoration. The superscription says the choir for the choir director, according to the Lilies, a testimony of Asaph, a psalm. I believe this would categorize as a psalm of lament. There's also an additional note from the Septuagint, the LXX Greek translation of the Old Hebrew, of the Hebrew Old Testament. That was written, I think, 3rd century BC, sometime in the 200s BC, I believe is the correct timeline there. And they give this detail that this was something that was written according to the Assyrians. So the thought there is that the historical setting for this psalm very well might be the destruction of the northern tribes of Israel at the hands of the Assyrians. And then that is what is being lamented here is the punishment that they are receiving, that God is allowing to take place because of their open rebellion against him and their pursuit of other gods and paganism during the divided kingdom period of Israel's history. So keep that in mind as we read throughout the psalm. Again, we're looking at Psalm number 80 today, a prayer for restoration. Let me get the psalm up on the screen for us as we read along together here in Psalm number 80. Psalm number 80. All righty. Psalm number 80, and we are reading together beginning in verse number 1. Psalm 80, verse number 1. Listen, shepherd of Israel, who leads Joseph like a flock. You who sit enthroned between the cherubim, shine on Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Rally your power and come to save us. Restore us, God. Make your face shine on us so that we may be saved. Yahweh, God of armies, how long will you be angry with your people's prayers? You fed them the bread of tears and gave them a full measure of tears to drink. You put us at odds with our neighbors. Our enemies mock us. Restore us, God of armies. Make your face shine on us so that we may be saved. You dug up a vine from Egypt. You drove out the nations and planted it. You cleared a place for it. It took root and filled the lands. The mountains were covered by its shade, and the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent out sprouts toward the sea and shoots toward the river. Why have you broken down its walls so that all who pass by pick its fruits? Verse 13, boars from the forest tear at it, and creatures of the field feed on it. Return, God of armies, look down from heaven and see. Take care of this vine, the root your right hand planted, the son that you made strong for yourself. It was cut down and burned. They perish at the rebuke of your countenance. Let your hand be with the man at your right hand, with the Son of Man you have made strong for yourself. Then we will not turn away from you. Revive us, and we will call on your name. Restore us, Yahweh, God of armies. Make your face shine on us, so that we may be saved. And that is Psalm number 80. Again, a prayer for restoration. Psalm number 80, a prayer for restoration. Again, given the detail that's included in the Septuagint about this being associated with the Assyrians, we're probably looking at the downfall of the northern tribes that would have taken place in a process between 734 and 722 BC. And we could see that someone of the lineage and of the line of the worshipers in the temple setting of Asaph, that they would have this great lament over what is taking place. It seems that this very well might be somebody in Jerusalem, again, one of the lineage of Asaph, somebody in Jerusalem knowing what is taking place in the northern tribes and simply lamenting that God's people have been destroyed and have been overtaken. This language in the very first verse, listen, shepherd of Israel who leads Joseph like a flock. This is some common recent language within the Psalter as we've been looking at these Psalms of Asaph. In Psalm 77, verse number 20, Psalm 78, verse 52, Psalm 79, verse 13, all of these texts, all these verses use flock, shepherd, sheep language. Again, showing the relationship that God has with his people. And he is described here, God is, not just as the shepherd of Israel, but the one who sits enthroned between the cherubim. And the request is, shine on Ephraim, Benjamin, and Manasseh. Rally your power to come to save us. And then we have the refrain that shows up 3 times within the psalm, Psalm number 80, in verse number 3, verse number 7, verse number 19. Restore us, make your face shine on us so that we may be saved. And the only difference between these 3 psalms is the way that God is described. In verse number 3, he's simply referred to as God. But in verses 7 and 19, he's referred to, well, verse number 7, he's referred to as God of armies. And then verse 19, Yahweh, God of armies. So that's those designations are different, but they all focus on the same thing: a desire for restoration, a desire for his face to shine on them, and a desire for this to lead to their salvation. Well, why is this necessary? Why this refrain? Well, because they recognize that Yahweh is angry with them because of the people's prayers, that he has allowed them to only be fed by their tears. They've had a full measure of their tears. They're at odds with their neighbors. Their enemies mock them. Why is this the case? Well, it's because their sin. But from their perspective, God is the cause of this. It is God who has, in his sovereignty, allowed this to take place, which is true. But the true root cause of their problems is their rejection. The northern tribes of Israel were not faithful to God, not at all. Every single one of the kings that reigned within the northern tribes were evil. They did not seek God. They were not faithful to him. They were not loyal to the covenant. So because of that, they are experiencing these greatly negative circumstances. So again, the refrain, restore us, God of armies. This is military language. This is warrior language. Restore us, make your face shine on us so that we may be saved. Then he goes in verse number 8 and starts talking about reviewing again the history of God, God's relationship with the people. God here is described as a gardener, which this is very familiar to us, considering our lesson from yesterday, from Mark chapter 11, the end of Mark 11, going into Mark chapter 12, which talks about the wicked vineyard tenants. This is one of the instances where Yahweh's relationship with Israel is described as a gardener and his vineyard. Here we see that Yahweh dug up a vine from Egypt, talks about bringing them out of Egypt, the Exodus, and then he brings them and drives out the nations out of the promised land, and he plants Israel as his vine, as his vineyard in Canaan. He cleared a place for them. He allowed them to take roots. He allowed them to fill the land, and there was great prosperity for some time. Verses 10 and 11 talk about the great prosperity that Israel as God's vineyard experienced, that the mountains were covered by its shade, the mighty cedars with its branches. It sent sprouts toward the sea, so westward, and even shoots towards the river eastward. This vine, this vineyard flourished. It was great. It was strong. It was mighty. It produced good fruit. Why? Not just because Yahweh was their God, but because they were faithful to him and they were loyal to him. So they're wondering now, what has changed? Again, this seems to be a person in Jerusalem looking at the northern tribes, wondering, why has this happened? Why have you broken down its walls? Why have you allowed the vineyard to be overrun? Why is it that anybody can just come pick off the fruit? Why have the boars been allowed to tear through the vineyard, to come out of the forest and to tear the vineyard? And the creatures, why are they able to go in and ransack the vineyard? Why? Why is this taking place? Again, from our perspective, we know it's because of their sin, their disloyalty to the covenant. So the cry is, return, God of armies. Look down from heaven and see. Take care of this vine. Come address this. Come help it to flourish once again. This root that your right hand planted, again, that's anytime we see right hand language, that is language of power. That is recognition that God did this. By his power, he did this. But not just a root is Israel described as, he's also described as the son that you made strong for yourself. But unfortunately, it was cut down and burned. They did perish at this rebuke of your countenance. Again, this is God allowing this to take place, allowing the Assyrians to overcome them because of their sin, because their constant rejection. But the request again, let your hand be with the man at your right hand, with the Son of Man you have made strong for yourself. Pretty sure that is in reference to the kings of Judah and Israel, but of course the Son of Man will be applied to Jesus later on. So in doing this, in restoring, in saving, the response of the people is that we will then not turn away from you. Revive us, and we will call on your name. And here's the refrain one final time. Restore us, Yahweh, God of armies. Make your face shine on us so that we may be saved. What is the issue in Psalm 80? The issue in Psalm 80 is a worshiper in Jerusalem looking northward and seeing God's people decimated, seeing the boars and the wild animals come in and ransack Yahweh's vineyard. How can Yahweh allow such a thing to take place? Does he not love his vineyard? Does he not love his son? And of course, the answer is yes, he does. Very much so. He loves his vineyard. He loves his son. He loves even Israel in her rebellion, but he's not going to allow the rebellion to stand. The covenant promises remain true, as do the covenant curses. God made it very abundantly clear through Moses and through the prophets, be loyal and be blessed, but be disloyal and be cursed. And that's exactly what they are experiencing now. They are experiencing Israel from the perspective, it seems, of the worshiper in Jerusalem. As he looks northward, he sees Israel suffering at the hands of the Assyrians, and really they have no one to blame for themselves. Yes, they do look to God, and they do see him as the cause of this. You know, you fed them the bread of tears and gave them a full measure of tears to drink. You put us at odds with our neighbors, our enemies mock us. So yes, they see that this is what Yahweh's allowing, but also notice this. They do not just see him as the cause, but they also see him as the solution. Restore us, God of armies. 3 times, restore us. 3 times, make your face shine on us. 3 times, so that we may be saved. Yes, God is in control. And yes, he will allow for his people to suffer punishments and to experience discipline when we stray from him. But he's just waiting for that moment of repentance. He's waiting for that moment when humility sets in and they turn to him, begging that his discipline might subside and that his grace might be seen once more. Yes, unfortunately, Israel, the northern tribes, were disloyal. But it's their disloyalty and the curses that they incurred that can help to warn us of our need for absolute loyalty at all times. Thank you so much for tuning in to this prayer for restoration here in Psalm number 80. If you have any questions or comments about this text, please feel free to leave that in the comments section below. And I appreciate you take some time to read along with me today here in Psalm number 80. We'll be back at it again on Wednesday, reading together from Psalm number 81, a call to obedience. Another Psalm of Asaph. We have 3 more Psalms of Asaph, I believe. Yes, Psalms 81, 82, and then next week, 83 will be our final Psalm of Asaph here within this run of Psalms. And I hope they've been a blessing to you as we've gone through them over the last couple of weeks. Again, thanks so much for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your Monday. May God bless you in all that you do. And we'll be back at it again on Wednesday morning. Take care and God bless.